So I know I talk about Diminished a lot, but Diminished is just awesome, and stuff like this is kind of why. So I've just been developing this really cool sounding lick, and it's not complete yet, but I know enough about what I want to do with it to kind of get a preliminary video up, so I don't have to waste a bunch of time just doodling around with it while I'm streaming. And of course, so I can use distortion and not have the left-right camera reverse thing going on by streaming using my phone. So that's kind of just why I'm doing a video upload right now. So this is so diminished scale again is just really cool 8-tone scale, and it's made up of a regular pattern of intervals. From your starting note, you go half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half whole, on and on, you know, into infinity. And you get some really cool stuff with that. Lots of, I don't know, just really cool stuff. And with stuff like this, you can really take advantage of that repetitive interval movement within the scale. And I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. So this is just, it's really cool. I'm really looking forward to getting it down. I know the notes I want to play. It's just kind of like the phrasing, the order of them, the sequencing. You know, that's what I don't know so much right now. But now this is, it's going to be basically doing two patterns within the diminished scale. Okay, so there's like pattern, just call it pattern A and pattern B. So they're both not full diminished scales, but they have maybe like 4 or 5 notes out of a diminished scale in it. But they both exist within a whole diminished scale itself, and diminished scale is kind of hard to look at just by looking at the fretboard and just visualizing where it is all over the place. You know, going up and down the neck. Once you get the hang of the intervals in it, then it gets a lot easier. But I by no means know it as well as like a major scale or something like that. I'm still learning this too. Just you throw in that 8th note, and that just kind of makes things a lot more complicated. But here's what we're doing. So we're going to be looking at this as starting on the 4th string, okay? And I'm doing G. This is just where I've been doing it, so I'm just going to do it here. It's a pretty easy pattern to play starting it wherever, but I'm just going to stick to what I've been doing. So, okay, so there are 2 patterns, as I was saying. So here's what the first one does. It's going to be the 5th fret, okay? And then we go up to the next string, and we're going to have 3, 4, 6. Then we're going to skip a string, and we're going to go up to our G on the top string. And that's the highest note in this pattern. And then go back down the way you came. And then we're going to go down 1 whole step lower than we started right there. And that is the entire pattern back to there. I'm alternate picking everything. There we go. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Hope that's loud enough. Okay, so anyway, that's pattern A. And again, that was starting on 5 on our G, 5 up to 3, 4, 6, and then skip a string, go up to 3 there on the top, and then go back down the way you came. And then go down to 1 whole step lower, which would be that F there on the 3rd fret, and then that's where the pattern is going to repeat. It's going to be a repetitive pattern to some extent, you know, maybe two times through, but this isn't necessarily going to be the final pattern. But again, I'm still trying to develop that, but it's going to be something close to this. It's only going to use those notes, and the next pattern is only going to use those notes within it. So what we're doing is kind of at the heart of all this is looking at the notes on the 4th string, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing the diminished scale, starting with the notes on the 4th string. So just the difference here is that we're actually thinking of it in terms of starting on G. Again, these diminished scale goes infinitely in either direction with the same intervals. You know, half there, then we have a whole step, and then half whole. It would be like half, whole, half, whole, half, whole. Or going back up. I fell apart there. G, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole. There we go, yeah. And the diminished scale is going to be played by the notes that we're doing on the 4th string. So we have that one, and then we went down to that one. Pattern B is going to start a half step higher than where we started. So this is going to be on the 6th fret there, on like an A flat. And this one is going to go like this, and this is cool because this has something very close to a blues pentatonic in it. Excuse me, but it has my favorite modification to a blues pentatonic, which is where you're taking the perfect fifth and you're not playing that. So this is how pattern B goes. So we're starting on 6, okay? Then we go up to 4, 6, 7, and then we're skipping up to our A flat on the 1st string. So it's very, very similar to what we just did on the 1st pattern. And now on this one, we're going to go down to a lower note too, but staying within that scale, we're going a half step lower, back to the G, which is the first note that we started with, because the scale is going to go like this again. So we had that one and that one, which is the whole step interval, and then on the 2nd pattern we have there and there, which is the half step interval, and this is essentially going to repeat. That's the entire lick so far. So the 2nd pattern, or pattern B, was like this. It was 6, excuse me, 6, then you go up 4, 6, 7, and then skip, and then 4, back down, and then down a half step below where we started. So this is what we have so far, the whole thing. It was pattern A was 5, and then up to 3, 4, 6, skip 3, back down, and then down a whole step lower to the F there on 3. And then pattern B was 6, up to 4, 6, 7, skip up to 4, back down, 7, 6, 4, back down to 6, and then a half step lower to 5. So, that's essentially it, and I'm hitting the starting note one extra time there at the end, just to kind of emphasize the ending of each phrase. And again, well, I don't know exactly how I'm going to structure it. That's not going to be there. So it's going to be something closer to this, where I'm not going to repeat that last note. And now, the beauty thing is, or the beautiful thing, beauteous thing about this entire lick is that we're taking advantage of that diminished consistency between the intervals. So we're going to play those 2 patterns up the neck, and we're going to do it so that we're starting like we did here, there, and then we're starting the next one a half step higher, and then we're going a whole step higher, playing pattern A, going a half step higher, pattern B, whole step higher, pattern A, half step higher, pattern B, whole step, pattern A, half step, pattern B, and so on, just like we did. Because if you look at the 2, pattern A and pattern B themselves, pattern A started here, pattern B started a half step higher, so now we have to do a whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, and so on. And so the entire diminished scale is going to be contained within the starting notes of these 2 patterns. And then And it's so cool because the first pattern A does have that diminished sound to it. Pattern B does not. It has that blues pentatonic sound to it, but a little bit unstable because the sharp or because the perfect fifth is missing, which is why I love that shape of that modification of blues pentatonic so much, is just because it does have that that lack of stability to it. It just sounds really cool. Then you put the two together, and by following the notes that we start on, following that diminished scale, just gives it a really cool sound. So the entire thing so far would be like this. That's where we started. We're back up here to G, and it sounds really awesome. And I'm finding for me that the hard part about this is just remembering where to start each time, and it's just kind of a little bit, I don't know, it just feels a little bit clumsy at the very beginning. I don't think I've ever played something quite like this, and after I go a few times, then it gets to be really easy to remember. But and just keep in mind that if for pattern A, you're really only doing, everything here is in position 2. So pattern A, from where we start, is really in 3rd position, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pattern B is in 4th position. Each one of these patterns hits one note within that position. So there's going to, for pattern A, there's going to be something on the 3rd fret, there's going to be something on the 4th, something on the 5th, something on the 6th. And the same goes true for pattern B. See? There we have 5th fret, 1st fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret. Then the second one we have 4th, 6, 4, and then there's going to be a 7th fret there. And then when we go back down to the lowest note, that's 5. So we have 1 for each fret there too. And just kind of remembering that going up here, I guess something easy to do to remember this would be that just, I mean, really just from your starting note, kind of remembering the on pattern B, going from there to there, kind of like as your highest note fret-wise, is something you can do. It's, I don't know, it's a little bit strange, but once you get used to just these little pocket patterns like that, and then you're playing the exact same thing each time, it's just that you're going up your starting note is going a whole step higher from pattern B to pattern A, and when you're going from pattern A to pattern B, you're only starting a half step higher. So it's kind of, it just might take a little work. For me, at least, that's the hardest part about this, is just remembering where to start. So I'm going to play through it a few times. Okay. I'm going to try to leave out the repeats. I'm just going to play each one once and see what happens there. It's getting kind of up into the no-play zone up there. See right there, I kind of lost track of where the starting note was. That's the hard part for me. But once really going with it and getting it down and playing it a few times, it gets easier. I've been playing this for like 3 days too. This is pretty remarkable for me that I've spent that much time patiently trying to construct something, as opposed to just turning on the record button and just going into it without knowing what to talk about, like I normally do. But I get excited though. When I come up with something cool, I get excited and I want to share it. So, I mean, I played other stuff too, but I've been focusing mainly on this. So how to play it, I don't know. Like that's just kind of like the base of it, and the pattern's going to change a little bit. It may have like kind of like a sextuplet sort of a feel, like. You know, that sort of a thing, or it may just kind of go up and down like I've been doing. Maybe something like that. You know, that doesn't matter. I'll just stick to playing it one way here. But you just hear how cool it sounds, and it's going to turn into something that's more of a speed picking, fast sort of exercise. But that stuff's fun to play, and people really do tend to want to learn how to do stuff like that, because they just, you know, the fast picking is something you have to unlock, and people largely want to know how to unlock that. And it's probably a little bit different for each person, but I mean, you know, long story short, you force it to happen by playing stuff like this. It sounds, at the beginning, it's going to sound like, you know, it's going to sound like this. But then as you do it, it starts to come together. Into something that, you know, sounds clean. But yeah, so I'll just play through that one more time, a few times. Okay. I start over because I'm playing it a little bit different there. I spend a lot of time going to the second note right after the first one, and then back up there while trying to develop this, but that's not what I did for the purpose of this video. I just started by the root note and going higher, so I'm going to go back and force myself to play it that way, as to not confuse everybody, and myself included. I did not hit the right note there on the fourth string. I went from that one, and I went down a whole step when I wanted to do that. Did it again. Yeah, I was very, very non-embarrassed by how that one went. You can hear how cool it's going to sound once it's played fast, once I really develop the sequence there. But that's a really, really cool example of why Diminished is so awesome, and why, you know, it sounds so cool, and just the neat part about it is really fully taking advantage of the consistent intervals within the scale. Half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, so on and so forth. And you can see, one more time, the way that it has that scale built within the starting notes. Half step, whole step, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole. Starting here. There's a whole step there, And then we're going from there to there, which is a half step. Back to that one there. And then from here, we're starting here, which is a whole step. And then we're starting a half step. There's that half step again there, then whole step. I'm going to play it without going to the lower note of each, just to really make it as easy as possible to see the diminished scale built out of the root note. So there. Then here. That's a half step. Whole step. Half step. Whole step. Half step. Whole step. Half step. Nope. Started that one a half step too low, but that's, again, it gives you a good view of what's hardest for me about that is remembering where to start. Basically, it's an easy pattern. Pattern A is here, pattern B is here, and then you do the same thing, starting pattern A is located here, basically. Pattern B is located here, basically. And then you do that, and then you repeat pattern A and pattern B, starting a whole step higher than where you were. So starting here, we start a half step higher, and then we start a whole step higher, half, whole, so on and so forth. So it's really cool, and I'm gonna keep working on it, and I'll have something for you. I don't know, maybe hopefully tomorrow I'll have something cool out of it. But this by itself is really cool. I'll just one more time. I just don't want to stop playing it. Something like that. So try it out. You won't be disappointed.